Hey guys, welcome to video number 15. Video number 15. This is going to be a book review. This book is called A New Pair of Glasses by Chuck C. It's a book about AA, but not really about AA. And this is Chuck C. His name is Charles A. Chamberlain, and he died in 1984, which was 1 year before I was born. So, if you're wondering why I look so nice with my nice shirt and my hair all done up, it's because I had an interview today. It's for a job where you take care of disabled people, people that have a little bit of a struggle with things, and you basically supervise their work. So they go to these apartment complexes and they clean everything up, and you help them, make sure you get them there, make sure they're doing everything right, and just deal with issues. Pretty simple stuff. I enjoyed working with disabled folks up at Easter Seals Camp Oak, so that's why I was interested in doing this job. Interview went well. I'll probably get offered the position. I'm only going to take it part-time if they do offer it. And if I do get it, then I'll probably make a video about that and let you guys know how it's going. So I'm going to review this book called A New Pair of Glasses by Chuck C. I went through it briefly a couple minutes ago, and I dog-eared some spots in there, some spots that kind of got my attention that I thought were good. And I'm just going to read through the spots that I underlined and explain a little bit or give a little bit of my thoughts on it where I feel necessary. And that's that. Hopefully this isn't too long, and hopefully it's not too boring. Okay, so Chuck C. The first one I have underlined. It says, "As he says, we do it for free and for fun." And he's talking about the service aspect of AA. If anybody is ever asking for money or asking him to pay them for the things that he's doing, any of the fellow people in AA that he's helping, I'm opening the windows because it's burning hot, he refuses because he says that you guys helped me recover, basically, and recover sanity in my mind, so why would I possibly be able to ask you for money for these things? So that's an important aspect in AA, is that you're not doing things for selfish reasons. You're doing things because it's a joy to give without expectation of anything in return. Okay, so the next one, I have a quote that I underlined. Herbert Spencer: "There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation." A lot of us suffer from that. I do too. That means you're talking about something that you've never experienced in any way, shape, or form other than hearing somebody else talk about it or reading a publication or something like that. That's basically judging without any experience. It's not a good thing to do. It's not a very nice thing to do, and it's quite an ignorant thing to do. And then under that it says, this is the guy that wrote the foreword: "In short, friend, give yourself a break, take what you can now and file the rest for future reference. It's amazing how well such an apparently simple approach can alter the perception of life. And after all, isn't that why we get a new pair of glasses?" Okay. Okay, this part is about a Texan. He's half a Texan wide and a Texan and a half tall. And he tells this story. He says, "If you're going to solve a problem, it helps if you know what the problem is. For instance," says he, "I've always been afraid of dogs. Some little girl comes walking down the sidewalk with a Great Dane on the leash and says she's not afraid of him at all. A poodle runs out and I take off. He's over 6 feet tall. I can just see him running from a poodle. He says this caused him a lot of embarrassment in his life, And it finally became necessary for him to look at the reason that he was afraid of dogs. But he said that didn't completely satisfy him. So he looked at it again, and he saw that the reason the dog bit him was that he was chasing the little girl at the time. Now, says he, all my life I've been chasing women and getting in trouble and running from dogs, and dogs were never my problem in the first place. So he says it helps to know the problem. It helps to know your problem. If you're trying to work on a problem, make sure you have a very good understanding of what your problem actually is, otherwise you're solving something that doesn't exist. Okay. And now 5, maybe 6 years have passed, and I made another great discovery, which I believe to be the great discovery. Great discovery, both capitalized. When we make this discovery, the search is over and life begins. Life isn't over, life just begins. Really. And this discovery was that I was never alone anymore. I, who had walked alone for 43 years, totally alone, I was never alone anymore. I had a God of my very own. And where I am, He is. I'm often by myself, but never alone. And this has been the way it's been ever since the discovery, and it's the way it was before the discovery, because I hadn't been alone since my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I'm totally convinced that the only roadblock between me and you, and me and my God, is the human ego, the only roadblock there is. I further believe that the best definition you'll ever hear of the human ego is the feeling of conscious separation from. Or in my words, the feeling that you don't belong, or the feeling that you don't belong in your skin, or the feeling you don't belong around other people, that sort of thing. We've got to get rid of the obsessions of the mind. That's what AA is about. It's not about drinking. And in order to get rid of the obsessions of the mind, we have to be rid of the ego, because that's where they come from. I want, I don't want, I like, I don't like, I. That's it. It's selfishness. That's what AA is about. It's about seeing past your own selfishness. It's not about alcohol. As they say, alcohol is the solution to the problem. We had learned that to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. Why? Why clear back there? The first word of the second paragraph, chapter 3. The program of recovery is over here in chapter 5. It's there in chapter 3 because if we be alcoholic, we are caught in a trap we cannot spring. We have to have help, and we can't get help until we recognize the need for it. It's impossible. We're a peculiar breed of cat. We can't hear until we can hear, and we can't see until we can see. And it doesn't make a bit of difference who's talking. So that's, you can't convince somebody who has a drinking problem that they have a drinking problem. They have to come to it of their own accord, and usually after they've piled up loads of wreckage behind them. Okay, I have lived by step 11 for 29 years, which is I sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. That was important for me because I lived with the Catholic God for a long time, and he's a big asshole, and I wasn't a big fan, so that part was good. I'm convinced that you and I have to do this without getting too serious about it. Seriousness is a disease in and of itself, and it's just not good. You know, laughter is good, levity is good, lightness is good. Not taking ourselves seriously is good. He has a little diagram right here. See if you can see it. There's a circle in the middle that says life, good, and God. And then outside, well, that circle is the universe and everything in it. And the dots are the human race. So everybody else, not me. And then he has himself right here, Chuck. Chuck is outside of the circle, so Chuck is very unhappy. Oh, and also this line right here is, on this side of it is ego. So that's, he's saying ego is the only problem. Next one. Okay, he's telling a story about some guy talking to him about what happened after he got sober. I'd be sitting with a man at lunch talking business with him, and right in the middle of a sentence he'd say, "What the hell happened to you, Charlie? I've known you for 25 years and I don't know you." And I'd say, "I don't know." And I didn't. But this is what happened. That thing called ego was gone, and eventually I woke up in the circle. So that diagram that he was talking about before, I woke up in the circle, a part of and not apart from. This is a priest that he was talking with. They're having this discussion. I don't think he's at confession, hopefully not. The priest, he finally turned to me and he said, "You know something, Chuck?" And I said, "What, Father?" He said, "Sometimes I have to believe that heaven is just a new pair of glasses." Hence the title of the book. Maybe that was where he got his inspiration for this book. Heaven is a new pair of glasses. The world itself doesn't change. You change. The world is exactly the same. Okay, this part is about a little bit more on his definition of God and what God is. Before we go any further, I've got to tell you that I do not believe in a capricious God. I do not believe in a God of judgments, punishments, and rewards. I don't believe it, but many of you do. I do not, and I want to tell you why I don't. Number one, if there is anything other than God, God cannot be infinite. If there were otherness, God would not be infinite, he would be finite. The good book says, in the beginning, God. God plus nothing leaves nothing but God. In the beginning, God. So insofar as I'm concerned, there is no otherness. God's all there is, and there ain't no more. Very likely the process of creation was something like this. God thinks and himself becomes the thing he talks about. You remember the little boy who said to the teacher, "Where'd God stand when he created the earth?" That's a hell of a good question, isn't it? Where did he stand when he created the earth? He couldn't have stood on a ball of mud out of the Mississippi River. Sorry. He hadn't made the Mississippi River yet. He didn't have to stand. God thinks, and himself becomes the thing that he thinks about. The carpenter, assuming he's talking about Jesus, the carpenter said, "Judge not according to appearances, but judge righteous judgment." That means that pretty soon we see ourselves in all men and all men in ourselves, and we look through the condition to the thing behind it. Now you and I, this is about marriage, and I suppose you're like me, sort of dreamed all our lives about getting up every morning and having a new woman across the table from us. But I came to see that every morning I have a new woman across the table from me, because you see, we're changing people. We're changing people. You've never heard me before. I'm not the guy I was yesterday. You're a different person every single day. This is what I was talking about with multiple personalities. There's no barter in love. There's no barter in love. You do things because you want to, with no strings on it at all. Marriage isn't a 50-50 thing. It isn't a 75-25 thing. Marriage is 1,000 to nothing. You don't barter. You don't barter with God, and you don't barter with each other. That's the simple, unadulterated truth. The motivation is love, and love is fulfillment of the law. You do it because you love it for free and for fun. Let's see. They say another thing. They say that anything that's worth doing is an end in itself, that anything that's done as a means to an end is self-robbery. So he's saying all this stuff about goals and plans, and I gotta achieve this, and I gotta... You've heard before, I'm sure, it's about the journey, not the destination, right? Because you never really arrive at the destination. The journey is never ending. You're always in the journey. You have you can mark off little destinations and little achievements, you know, as you're journeying along, but your journey never actually comes to an end. So if you set yourself a goal that's kind of static, then you're going to be disappointed, because it's never static, right? It's always moving. So there's a little verse in the book, Bible, which says this: "Blessed is he who condemneth not himself in that which he alloweth." What does that mean? What does that mean? I believe it means that if you can do a thing without condemning yourself, it's not so bad. But if you condemn yourself for it, you better jolly well quit, or it'll kill you. So if you're doing something and you're feeling guilty about it, that means you condemned yourself, and that means that it's chewing up your insides and making you feel like shit, and that's not good. In my opinion, the definition of sobriety is the ability to live comfortably, peacefully, and joyously with me. This is sobriety. Some people can do that with alcohol in their lives, and some people cannot. I apparently am one of those who cannot. We're almost done, if you've lasted this long. Okay, a little earlier than that, I'd yacked someplace, and a kid came up to me and he said, "Chuck, do you know why it's so hard for us to believe? Do you know why it's so hard for us to find God?" And I didn't want to answer him. I was too tired. I wanted to get the hell out of there. I thought to myself, I'm going to have to listen for an hour to some explanation of why it's so hard for us to find God. But I couldn't get away from him, and so I had to say, "No, why is it so hard for us to find God?" And he said, "Because he ain't lost." Because he ain't lost. Isn't that fabulous? Because he ain't lost. He said, you see, all we've got to do is come back home, and we find God's always been there. We've been away. And that's the story of the prodigal son. That's also in the Bible. If you've never heard of it, it's a good story. I'd recommend to go read it. Okay, this is the last dog ear I put, so this is the last piece that I'm going to read. Remember, the man, capitalized man, said, "Don't lay up to yourself treasures on earth, where the rust corrupts and thieves break through and steal, but lay up to yourself treasures in heaven, where rust does not corrupt and thieves don't break through and steal. Because where the treasure is, there will be the heart also." Don't lay up treasures on earth, because it all goes away. I like laying up treasures on earth, actually. I like stuff. I don't like stuff that much. I like ideas more. Maybe I'm sure those go away too. So the important thing is not to grasp very much, if possible, to the things that pass through your life, because they're all going to go away. All experiences eventually are gone. I mean, if you look at it, your experiences go away the second they happen anyway. They turn into memory, like this. All right, just watch your life. That's on an ending note. This is my own personal thing, but try noticing where the present turns into the past. Right? We have this physical thing that's happening, and somehow it literally turns into a memory in your head. A memory in your head. The whole world and universe turns into a memory in your head. The present is this big, right? You can't see it. It's so tiny. Life is amazing. It really is. If you can get past your fears and phobias and paranoia and obsessions of the mind, that's what AA is about. It's about helping you with your obsessions of the mind, helping you live reasonably. Then the whole thing is just amazing, and it's simple too. It's not complicated. Anyway, this is the longest video I've made so far. We'll see how it does. We'll see if anybody can last past the first 2 minutes. We're gonna stop a little bit shy of 19 minutes here, and this is day 14, and I will see you in day 15. All right, bye bye.